Hi, Facebook friends. Good morning. GIF. It is Friday. I'm Helen Archontou. I'm the CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am so happy to end the week with you, and the work week, I should say. The week is, more to come with what's ahead for the weekend. But we love March. It's Women's History Month. There's so many great conversations and so many great events happening that are being, lifted up, showcasing women around our state and around our country, which we love. Obviously YWTV, we are always lifting up women. And, today's guest, I have to say, is someone who I met actually a little more than a year ago now. We met because of a Habitat for Humanity event. Jen is very involved, one of the many groups that our guest is involved with. And she, and I connected. And over this time that I've known her, I'm just so impressed. She just lifts women up and lifts businesses up and lifts the community up every single day in some way. And, it really made me curious to get to know her a little bit better and understand what makes her tick. Because I really, when you think about people that are connecting people and creating community, for me is really how we make our mission of eliminating racism and empower women happen, is really through community and everyone linking arms together. And I feel like you just totally embody that. So with that, I'm so excited to chat a little bit with our guest today, Jennifer Polidori. Did I say Polidori correct? Okay, good. And tell you a little bit about her. So before we jump into talking, let me tell you a little bit about her background. She wears many, many hats, including currently being a successful senior financial advisor with a long history in financial services, over 17 years. That alone is probably a conversation how that area has changed evolved over that time, I'm sure. In addition to her professional work, she is a council president in her town of Pompton Lakes, a member of the Pompton Lakes Rotary, Women's Club, the Elks Lodge, number 1855. She is PTA president. She is of Lakeside Middle School, Ducks Unlimited Hudson River chapter chair, a committee member for Women Build for Bergen County Habitat for Humanity, which again is how we met to begin with, mother of two to Paige and John Michael, a dog mom, which you might hear mine barking, so I'm one as well, so we bond there, and a volunteer. And so with all of that, thank you so much for making some time to talk with us today, because that is a lot to juggle.
Thank you for having me on. I love this. I was thinking about it this morning. I think it's been almost a year since we met on the same forum for, you were our keynote speaker for the annual tea. We were virtual last year, and I was the MC of the event, and I had the pleasure and the opportunity of being able to chat with you. So this is wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad. And it's been, that, as I said, is where we were introduced, but I've learned pieces, as I've known you over this time. And, I was really excited to bring you here to be part of the conversation today for a couple of reasons. One of them is, just the fact that you are always linking people together. I feel like you are the great connector. And with that, you also are very, very focused as a daily practice almost about lifting a business up, lifting, people up, putting some kind of inspiration, some reason to be joyous, whether it's National Pizza Day, whatever it is, you're always celebrating and encouraging others to do the same. Where does that come from? Where does it come from? I love it. I love the energy of it.
I think probably because my 17 years in the financial industry is broken up a little bit. And for 8 years in between that, I did step away to run a catering company and cafe. And we really use that as a place to just celebrate everything. So if we weren't celebrating some type of a cultural food of the day or a holiday or something, and I just noticed that people really, they like having a purpose for celebrating something and sharing food and making it about something special and highlighting something. So I I'm able to transition that into business, and especially with my children, right? We want to make parenting fun. We know that more now than ever after the last 2 years of being home, right, together as a family. We wanted to make sure that we kept everything interesting. So we turned our home into a little bit of a resort over the pandemic, and found something to celebrate every day, just to keep everybody happy and not stir crazy and climbing the wall. So, you know, social media is a great platform to share that kind of happiness. So I guess it just evolved from that.
You know, I love that we've heard so many stories about how people kind of survived during this time. And, you know, within figuring that out, they did create new customs for their families, and, you know, new opportunities. And I love that, because it really, you know, it really has shown, you know, I mean, I know it's helped me kind of think about things to celebrate with my family when I see you lift that up. So, you know, the other thing that I'm so struck by is you are such a busy person. You between what you're doing for your family, what you're doing for your business, you know, what you're doing to, you know, support, you know, others around you, and you are involved in your local government.
Yes.
How did you kind of make that space in your head to do that, um, with everything else that you already had on your plate?
So, and it's interesting. I've been asked that many times. Why did I choose to get involved? How did I get involved? It just happened. It was definitely not something. If you had asked me 6 years ago, do you think you'll ever be elected to local office? I wouldn't even have known what that meant. But naturally, what I did during that time was I was involved, right? So I was involved with the PTA. I was coaching my son's soccer team. I've been an active member of the women's club for many years. So, and I also grew up here, so this is my hometown. So we had a councilman that had stepped down in the middle of his term, and they needed to appoint someone to fill the vacated seat. And it just seemed like a natural fit. So when I was asked, of course, I was honored, and to be able to accept the opportunity to serve my community in another capacity was a no-brainer. And it was an easy way for me to transition things that I was already doing. I was already involved. I was already on the fields. I was already out with the kids in the schools, with the women's club, doing things in the community. So it basically just picked up that work and shifted it to another place.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I think, you know, obviously at the YW, one of our goals is to increase representation of women in places that decisions are made. I mean, key decisions are made, and you're now sitting in one of those places, and the president, no less. But I think a lot of women feel like, I don't have time for it, or I don't know enough, you know, to be able to sit on a board, or try to, you know, ask to be appointed or run for office. You know, what would you share? I mean, you shared a little bit about your journey, how it happened, and how you've evolved, you know, in that space. We know, but how, you know, what would you say to women that just think, you know, maybe, but I don't think I can do that?
You can, right? And sometimes it's just a matter of saying yes to something and then figuring it out as you go, right? We tend to not always do that as women. We want to make sure that we plan, and we overthink things. Sometimes just saying yes and then finding the space for it. If you're already busy, it seems sometimes that it's easier to just add new tasks to the list when you already have a momentum built. I think my best piece of advice for that is to say yes to things that already fit in the space of what you're doing, right? So for me, saying yes to this was easy because I'm already here. I'm already involved. I already have a presence. If you find that that's you, then you'll find that it's very easy to transition a lot of that work that you're already doing into doing something else. So you'd be surprised how much time you can actually find. I think the biggest mistake you make sometimes is when you say yes to something that is already not a natural part of your space. So now you have to create a whole new space for something, and sometimes that takes away from the other things that you need to do. So in your community, you know, it may be that you want to run for local office. It could be that you want to be involved with the Board of Ed. You can sit on a committee. That's a really good way to get started. There is a lot of committees that are run through your council in town that you can get your feet wet and become a part of what's going on in the community. And maybe it's in a particular area that you're passionate about. So we have an open space committee, which works on our recreational areas. We have an environmental committee. There's a library board. So if these are things that you're already naturally involved with, it's very easy to take that into a leadership role, and the experience that you have working, be able to be at the table and make some of the decisions for that organization.
Well, you said two things there that was, I think, just such great advice. And I just want to kind of reinforce for our viewers is one is, as women, we very often wait for everything to be perfect or to know everything before we jump in. And I love that you said sometimes you have to just do it and figure it out along the way, because we know that, from, gender studies that men are more geared to operate that way and women are not, and as a result it does keep us from embracing more opportunity. So it is a mindset shift that we have to learn to be comfortable with the unknown a little bit, and learn as we go, because we know that we do figure things out all the time,
Yeah.
in the places and spaces that we already are comfortable. So
I think a big part of that process too is, well, first of all, we put all this emphasis on making sure that we're perfect all the time. Sometimes you need to just be present, right? Sometimes being present is more important than being perfect. But saying yes to something and then finding yourself in a space where you don't necessarily have all the answers, don't take away from the fact that you're a part of a team now, and that there are people that you can leverage. You can leverage their experience, you can leverage their expertise. So you'll never walk into anything having all of the answers or knowing everything that you're supposed to do. It's a learning curve. It's always a learning curve, right? Because we're always evolving. The community is always evolving. So the game is always changing. But you have at your fingertips all of the professionals that work for the community, all of the department heads. So leverage those resources, leverage the people that are professionals in that particular area when you have questions. And you'll find that that really helps you learn and helps you grab onto the role better. You're not expected to know everything. So don't create that space in your mind where you can't do something unless you feel like you've absolutely perfected it.
That's so great. And then I also love that you said that, think about the things that you're already doing and step into roles that kind of complement them. If you are, especially if you're feeling concerned about the unknown, because that does then help you feel like you have a framework for what you're jumping to, and a space. That's such great advice, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing both of those. Both of those pieces. They're such great reminders for all of us. And I hope those of you that are watching, really, really think about getting involved somewhere. I mean, Jennifer is a prime example of someone who was involved in her community because of her kids, involved in her community because of her business. And, this is kind of a more, how many years have you been doing being involved in government in this way, Jennifer?
So it's still relatively new to me. I filled the vacated seat in 2018, and then it was back-to-back elections. So I ran in that election year for the last year of that term, and then again immediately the year after for the 3-year term. And I'm actually up again for re-election this year. So
I appreciate. So the timing. The reason I'm asking you to share that is because I think it's good for us to remember that at any stage in our lives, you can jump into something new and different. I know sometimes we feel like, oh, I should have started that when I was younger. For those of you who saw my interview tribute to Senator Weinberg for her retirement, she shared with us that she didn't run for her position until she, in county government, and make that shift into running until she was in her 50s. And again, for us, it's not about party. We're a nonprofit organization. We're not about party. For us, it's about representation. It's about making sure that we have women sitting at these tables and being part of key core decision making, so that they can be thinking about the issues that are important to women. Again, there's those issues sometimes, overarch party. I mean, they're really about, women, issues that are important to women. So I appreciate you sharing, the timing. And I loved that Senator Weinberg had shared her story, because you can make these shifts and jump into these spaces at any point in your life.
You can, and you should. And you should always look at that as an opportunity to leverage years of experience that you've garnered from wearing all of those different hats that brought you to this point. I think there's a statistic that says both nationally and in the state of New Jersey, at the municipal government level, so mayors, council people, other municipal roles, we only occupy 30% of the seats. So we need to change that. And why? Because, we offer a different perspective, and you need to have a different perspective when you're making decisions. And you're right, at this level, at the community level, it really isn't necessarily about party politics. It's about your community. It's about our small businesses. It's about the schools that our children attend. It's about making sure that we have a thriving community, that we have a safe community. So that ultimately is the most important, more important than necessarily party politics.
So when you think about this role that you have taken on more recently, and I'm going to ask this question because I feel like, just to remind women watching, what skills are needed, so that they think about if they have them or developing them. What skills have you used most to be successful in this new world that you entered into in the last 2 years? Folks, I didn't even let her know I was going to ask this, by the way. And it came out of my mind as we were talking, which is what happens on YWTV. But it just occurs to me that, sometimes, again, we feel like we don't have what it takes. But, again, it's not always party. It's about having the skills and having the commitment to our communities, to do this work. So what have you used mostly, you think, to be successful?
And it is a great question. So a lot of the skills I think I use to be an effective councilwoman in my community are probably a lot of the same skills that I use to be an effective businesswoman, right? And I touched on that a few minutes ago, where we leverage people with experience around us, right? So being able to collaborate is a huge skill set. You're part of a community. You need to make sure that you have the support of other people in your community. So you want to make sure that you're leveraging the resources that you have, that you're working with team leaders. I'll give you an example. So for the last few years, I've been running with another councilwoman in town, the Open Space Committee. And for that role, we really focus primarily on revitalizing a lot of our recreational spaces. So recently we made it just a given rule that going forward, as we look at these spaces, we're going to bring in our DPW supervisor, because here we are, that's not my area of expertise, right? So I'm looking at the space that we want to create, this new playground or this new park. The benefit of having someone there that is an expert in that space to be able to tell you, well, this will work, this won't work, this isn't sustainable. So collaborating is huge. The ability to collaborate, right? You shouldn't ever have the mindset that you're here just to make a unilateral decision. And that's the same thing I do in business, right? So I have clients that come to me with various needs. Obviously, I consider myself an expert in the core of what I do, but you do have clients that will have particular situations that are something maybe you've never encountered before. With my ability to be with a firm the size of the firm that I'm with, we have so many experts that we're able to leverage their expertise. So I guess one skill is being able to work with others, ask for help, reach out to people that have more experience in something than you do. Another skill I would say that you should probably use is learn how to be efficient, right? We all want to work smarter, not harder. So if you see something that can be done easier, right? Don't be afraid to speak up and say, I think there's a better way that we can do this. In business, efficiency is key. So I would say, and transparency, right? I don't know if you would consider that a skill, but one thing you have to be able to do when you're out in the community is be transparent. Your community, the people that vote for you, that put you in that seat, you're a proxy for them, for their voice. So you need to be transparent with them, and transparent to the extent of sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know, but I can find out and I'll get back to you. So, and be present, right? Like I said before, sometimes being present is more important than being perfect. People need to know that you're out there, that you're on the ball fields, that you're in the schools, that you're shopping in your local businesses. I'm fortunate where I live in Pompton Lakes that we can probably do just about everything we need right here in town. Services, shopping, not everything, but a bulk of it. I can spend a whole Saturday checking off a whole to-do list right here without leaving the community. So for me, that's, practicing what I preach, right? We want to support our community. We want to make sure that our businesses last. Well, how do you do that? You shop in them. So I make sure that I spend a lot of time in my town. And then, like you said, I've always had a really good ability to connect people. So connecting people, bringing people in from other groups to work together on projects is important. And just being organized, I think that's probably key, right? I've always been a list maker. I think sometimes my lists have lists. So that's important to just stay organized and be responsive. If you say you're going to do something, do it.
Yes. Well, I love that list, and I appreciate you kind of going through your head and thinking through them. I think transparency is
You
definitely.
caught me a little off guard with that one, but
Yeah, you did great though. But I think the reason I asked you to do that, and again for those of you watching, is I want you to realize that you have so many of those skills, and the ones that maybe you don't even realize that you're using, you can, or that you think maybe I'm a little wonky on, you can develop. I mean, everything that Jennifer just shared. So it just supports your ability to follow the examples of Jennifer and the others of the 30% of women that are in these spaces, so that we can make that number greater and continue to have our impact and again increase our representation. So I really do appreciate you going through that exercise, because I think you've shared such great advice and already in the short time that we were together to help create space in someone's head about considering public service, in this way for sure. But before we leave each other, and these conversations always go so quickly, I want to make sure we talk about something else that just really seems like part of your makeup. When I say makeup, I mean your composition, not your makeup. But part of your composition that just flows so naturally for you is circles, creating networks for sure. And before we talk about the one that I'm very aware of, I guess I just would love for you to share why that's so important for you. Like, what have your circles of women, and I know you have a few that you are engaged with, what have they done for you that makes you such a proponent of kind of actively creating them and encouraging them for others?
I think what is most important about creating these circles is to be successful in anything, especially something new that you don't necessarily have a big presence in or a lot of experience with. When you just say yes and I'll figure it out later, you need to have a support system. You need to have people that are willing to advocate for you. You need to have those champions out there that are willing to, share your story. I know her. I know that she's responsible. I know that she'll do what she says she's going to do. She's dedicated. She's committed. How do you create those champions in your life? How do you find them? Well, by creating these networks, these groups of people that you can really collaborate with, and you can share your skill set, and you can help each other, build each other up, so that as they get to know you professionally, right, in business, obviously in business, we want to create a referral network. In politics, we want people to vote for us. In parenting, we want to make sure that we have someone to talk to. Are we doing the right thing? Are you experiencing this too? So to create a circle where you can be comfortable and with people that are experiencing the same challenges, maybe not the same business, maybe not in politics, but to have a space where you can sit down and have lunch and say, I'm here, it's 12 o'clock, I'm at lunch. I've already done 10 things this morning. I'm a little stressed out. Like, is anyone else going through this? And this, I think you're going to ask me about the lunch group, right? So this lunch group, it's grown to about 40 women now that receive the invitation. We meet every third Tuesday of the month. And it's really, it's not a networking group. It's not a business group. It's just lunch. It's just a space where professional women that are, they're the lady bosses in their life, and they're very involved in their communities. They get together and they share things that are current or relevant in their industries, ways that we can help each other. We talk about, I think most importantly, we talk about the organizations that we support, that we're passionate about, the drives that we have in front, like we do food drives, fundraising drives, we share that information. Because in the nonprofit space, we're all very involved in our communities. We all have nonprofit organizations that we support. When we're out there acting as ambassadors for those organizations, what better way is there to share that message than with a group of women that support the same causes you do? So the lunch group was created as a space for just that. It's, we're not there to hard sell each other. We're there to just chat. And I think, having had that time away from the business world to be in hospitality, I understand specifically as a woman how hard the industry, the restaurant industry is. So the group does focus 100% on hosting the lunches in women-owned businesses, which is, so I'm in Hug a Mug Cafe in Pompton Lakes today.
Yes, tell us.
My community, this is Pompton Lakes, and next month's lunch will be here, woman-owned.
So, and I just, you obviously evolved right to where I wanted to go to, which was about your women's networking group. And I am so impressed with what you've created there. I do know many of the women that attend, and I know that, they make the time for it regularly because it is a support space that you've created. And I love, love, love that you have intentionally brought that group to women-owned lunch spaces so that you can not only support each other, but introduce them to and support a women-owned space around you. And I have to say, you picked the greatest places just in the last few weeks alone, or last few months, I should say. I know we had the Serenity Cafe here, thanks to you. I know you introduced me to with the invitation, and Lori Murray from our team got to come to that luncheon and loved the space as well, which was
And
lovely.
you had Lynn on.
We did have Lynn on, and it was a great conversation, and it was wonderful to hear her journey. And I know this week you were at a taco affair in Little Falls, who I've personally been to, and such a fan of. I was so excited that you were there, and I'm hoping I could get over just not only to see all of you, but just because the food there is so creative and great. And here you are in next month's, offering, right behind you in your local business. So how do you find these places? I love to know, because I know you're a foodie. I've learned that about you over this year as I've gotten to know you a little bit. I know you're a foodie, so I know wherever you're taking your group, food's going to be good, because that's important to you.
Let's see. So a few things about that. So just to highlight your point of having been at the Mindful Cafe in Ramsey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I call it the Serenity Cafe. I meant the Mindful Cafe.
Mindful
Yes.
Cafe, and having Lynn on the Facebook Live, and
it was so serene to me. I wanted this to be called the Serenity Cafe.
It's lovely, and also a space that has not only delicious food but a retail space as well. So beautiful, and we were thrilled to be there and very grateful. But so to your point, right, of having Lynn on, that is one of, I would say, the unintended surprises of the lunch group, that the reciprocity has been amazing. So, you had sent someone from your organization who enjoyed the lunch and loves the story, and then Lynn ended up on Facebook Live, and through that, there are other women that have hosted events where I've gone to, and I've seen 5 other women from the lunch group show up. They've given each other opportunities to speak in front of their networks. So the support that has come out of that, if you had the time and you really could sit down and look at the web of each person that sits there, they're all touching on each other's lives now. There's a woman in the group that gave my daughter an opportunity to chef a private dinner in her home. We show up for each other's fundraising events. It's been wonderful. So to answer your question about selection, it started out with me having a few in mind, right? Places that I had been to. We've been to South and Pine in Morristown. I've known Leah Gassion for years. A few other places. The Wayne Y has a cafe, which is woman owned, and it is run by a woman that I've also known for years. But after a while, right, because we're very underrepresented in that area as well, you run out of spaces, especially because we're trying to stay within a reasonable proximity of where everyone's offices are. So I think the beauty of the group is that the ask is, if you attend this lunch and you have someone in your network that is a woman-owned establishment, please share, because we want to support your network as well and your friends. And that was how we ended up at a taco affair. So she was the friend of a woman that attends the lunch. She brought us there. And since then, there have been a few other women in the group that have reached out and have said, well, I have a client that owns this place, and I have a friend that owns this place. So that's how the list grows. The people that come, they share their networks with us. And that was what I wanted. I wanted it to be something that would just keep spreading wider and wider and wider. Because, in politics, right, in business, especially in my sector, and in hospitality. Those are three spaces right there that are very underrepresented by women. So, and being a woman in the food industry is not easy.
Yes. Well, I love what you're doing. I love how you're connecting women. I love how it's so intentional, and that you inspire others to follow suit. For our viewers, we'll put some links in the chats so that you know how to connect to Jennifer, and stay track of all the work that she's doing. And if you are a women-owned restaurant in the area, she'd love to know about you too. We would all love to know about you. So feel free to drop that into the chat so that maybe we can find a new lunch spot. So
Always on
it's more to add. So before we leave each other, I feel like I have to ask, because I feel like you're always working on the next big thing, because you've got so much going on. What's on your mind for the future, for yourself, for your plans that you're involved with?
So, grow my practice. I am up for re-election this year, so I hope to win the seat again, and then continue to do the work in the community. So, and I didn't have a chance to share this earlier, but the park that I worked with the Open Space Committee to recreate was the first space in our community that was redone to be an inclusive play space. So that was something that was very important to me. It has multiple pieces of equipment that speak to all different levels of abilities. We wanted to create a space that was something that families with children of all abilities could enjoy themselves in. And it was really well received by the community. So now going forward, we've decided that we're going to make that a component of every park that we redo. So I want to continue that work, and just to keep making things a little bit better. As women, every day, I think when you wake up, you want to just try and put your head on the pillow at the end of the night thinking that maybe you did something a little bit better today than yesterday. And maybe not every day, right? We have down days, but I think if I had to leave you with two pieces of advice, don't beat yourself up, right? Nobody's perfect. We need to keep moving forward. Be kind to yourself. I recently gave a presentation with an OBGYN who shared the message of, if you're not taking care of yourself first, if you're not making sure that you're well in all areas of your life, how can you support the people around you? So be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, take those moments in the day to appreciate you for what you're doing so that you can get out there and continue to wear all these hats. And I think the most important thing I can leave with a woman in either business or a woman new or looking to find a position in local government is use your voice, right? Use your voice. You are there for a reason, and you need to be heard. So if you feel like you are sitting at a table where everyone is talking and you're the only woman and you're not being heard, make sure you're heard, even if it means standing on the table, and help each other out, right? Hurdles are put in front of women, and when we clear one, we should move it out of the way so that it's not there for the next woman.
I love it all. That's why I wanted to have you on. I know I've been saying this to you for a while. I'm so glad it actually happened. You are such a girl gang supporter, and I can't think of a better way to end the week with kind of keeping that mindset for all of us. And I love this. Again, I always leave with the nugget that kind of keeps in my head, but present, not perfect. I love that you shared that, and it's such a good reminder for all of us. Folks, please stay connected to Jennifer. We have the links here for you so you can, learn more about her, learn what she's up to, stay connected to what she's doing. You could think about joining her women's group. You can definitely, as I said, if there's any businesses that you think that they should visit, please drop them in as well. Just again, a reminder, just in the last few months, they were at the Taco Affair in Little Falls, the Mindful Cafe in Ramsey. And today she is in Hug-a-Mug. Did I get that right? Hug-a-Mug in Pompton Plains. Which evidently behind you, her folks, is a pottery studio attached to this coffee shop. So
yeah, I can show you like
which I love.
Pottery. So you can come here and you can have lunch and you can create beautiful things. And then there's lovely couches and a whole coffee bar behind me. And this is Pompton Lakes. So if you're in Pompton Lakes, make sure you stop.
I said Pompton Plains. Sorry.
That's okay. That's
okay. Having a Friday, folks. Sorry.
That's
My brain is slowly shutting down. But Pompton Plains. Pompton Lakes. Which one? Say it again. Say it again.
Pompton
Contemplate. Okay. Contemplate. Really having a Friday.
That's okay.
So folks, just stay connected. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today and just, being such an inspiration. Thank you for just being out there and lifting women up as you do. And, we look forward to staying connected with you and seeing what you're doing and inviting you to be back on again. I really, I'm so grateful that you have, are out there talking about getting more women to run for office and more women to sit on boards and more women to get active in their community. It's so, so important. And again, it's not about party. It's just about representation of women in all of these places. So please, folks, really think about what Jennifer has said and take part of the conversation and share it with someone else in your life too. That's what this is all about. Spreading the word and spreading something that inspired you and that you left with.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. And
I appreciate this. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of the work you do. So I wish you the best. I'm always here if you need anything. Thank you again. And I hope to see you at lunch.
Yes, same. And I want to come to Hug a Mug and not only have lunch, but I want to make some pottery.
Yeah, bring your kids. It's great.
I love it. Everyone, have a great weekend. Do something fun for yourself and take care. And we'll see you next week with more YWTV. If you want to join us, we have our last of our Women's Leadership Conference virtual conversations next week on March 22nd. We'll be talking with Cindy Myers of Bridgewood Moving, who is another powerhouse woman, which I can't wait for you to talk to. We've had 3 great conversations, my goodness, each week. And she's going to finish us out. And then everyone can join us and hop on for our networking on March 31st. So much going on at the YW. Check out our social media and website to learn more and have a great weekend. Thanks so much again, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Bye.